Namaste. We're here with Freddie Nashon from Tanzania. Freddie is a financier, and I'm sure we'll be having a very interesting conversation. Hello, Freddie. How are you?
Fine. How are you, Kakoli Mitra?
I'm fine. Can you tell us a bit about what it is that you do as a
Oh,
financier, what started you, what got you interested in this, and how this relates to food security in Tanzania and in Africa?
Actually, thank you. Thank you for having me on the board. As you said before, actually, I did finance for my first degree and my master degree. But my background back on the days, I did agriculture. And I see like in Tanzania, 80% of the population, they rely on agriculture. They depend much on agriculture. And if you refer back on the World Bank report of 2018, a lot of Tanzania, more than 80%, they are living on a subsistence agriculture. So the moment I walked out of the car in 2021, when I went abroad to pursue my master degree, I was so excited to see the development that I saw there. So I decided to come back to bring the change to my community. And the only way to change the community is to bring the knowledge and to find people who can fund them to change this system of agriculture, because that's the only way I see I can change this community.
So, can you explain what
So
subsistence agriculture is?
subsistence agriculture is that people will just grow a little place of food just to keep themselves on a daily basis. For instance, according to World Bank report of 2018, the population by then was likely 57 million people. 14 million out of that population were living below $1. So you can see this kind of population, and 49% of that population were living below international poverty line. That's 1.9 US dollar per day. So you can see more than 60% of the population, or 80%, they are living below international poverty line. So people have stand. So the way, if we want to bring change, we must change the way people should get their nutrition, because this level of thinking is what brings people to a certain level of development. I had a certain professor when I was doing my master degree. He said 80% of the population globally are crazy, but 90% of your success or your changes in life depend on your surroundings. So most of my people are in a surrounding that they have remained stunned. So what brings them to that situation is because they don't get enough nutrition. And the way we can change that, despite of my finance I did, is to change the entire system of farming to do this agroecology, because of the increase. You can see now in the 2022 census, we are now roughly 67 million people. So from 2018, we was 57 million people, and now there was an addition of 10 million people within 4 years. So you can see that the rapid change, that the population is growing at a highly rate. So we need to think the way we can capitalize the resources and fully utilize these resources to match the need of the community. So I decided to come back to bring my expatriate in finance, whereby we can access this credit and bring this knowledge to ordinary people on the ground. I think that's the way I can bring changes to my community, and that's why I decided to come back. So the moment I came across people like you doing this kind of, to do this agroecology, I see this is the only way we can change, because I can give you an example from my personal life. I was raised in a family where my father has like maybe 10 acre, my grandmother. But within a shorter period of time, after 40 years, now it's not a farming, it's a place that we can just divide for somebody to reside, to live, because the number of the family has increased compared to the size of the land we had. So we need to do something extra. And that's where permaculture comes in. That with a little land, if we do the needful, we can change the life of the community without affecting the environment. Because now the rate of deforestation, even to my places, is very high. Even as we speak, I told you that I'm residing in a slum area. the situation is very tense. The number of people has grown. The only population has remained with the complaint towards the government. But what can the government do? Because the rate of population is very high compared to the resources we have. What should we do? So that's why Kakolia decided to come back to change the mindset of the community and to see the way we can change this. Because if we don't do something in the next 20 years, the situation might be so worse. Social crime will increase. Actually, even now, the social crime is very high. We are in a point whereby around the slum, you cannot walk during from 7 p.m. You cannot walk with a phone because somebody can just grab it.
So I
So
have
if we
a
don't work
question.
out this problem, yeah,
So I have a question,
yeah,
Freddie. In the past few decades, because you were describing Tanzania to be mostly subsistence agriculture, which I understand
yes,
to mean that a family is basically farming a very small piece of land just to feed themselves. So and
yes.
even if what percentage of your population is farmers? Did you say 80% or 70%?
80%, 80%.
80%. So how do the rest of
Yes.
the 20%, where do they get their food from if each family is only producing enough food for themselves and it's only 80%
Oh,
of
for
the food?
these subsistence farmers, sometimes they do produce with surplus.
Ah, okay.
Because these are people that they rely on rainfall, and that's why most of them they are suffering this hunger. We do suffer hunger because they don't have even the technology to preserve food. So the moment they produce, they will sell and they will survive within that time because we have like 3 seasons that we experience rainfall. So if I produce within this season, I will keep what can keep me to the other season. The rest I will sell. So if things happen that we experience any climate change, then the situation become worse. That's why, if you remember the 2022 report, World Bank report, most of African countries, West Africa, Central Africa, and East Africa, they suffered a lot because of the climate change. Because these people, they're just producing for themselves and a little for the surplus they get within that season, they will sell. That's what they do. So if the climate change the next season, things become worse, Kakoli. Things comes worse.
So
That's where yeah.
because you were talking about preserving food, I'm wondering, in many cultures, there are traditionally inside the culture of the people, there are uh, ways to preserve different types of food. So, for example, when you think of people in the north of Europe, they preserve food, they preserve fish, for example, by salting it, right? And then they can keep it in barrels and it lasts the entire winter. There are other ways of preserving food where you pickle a vegetable and then you can leave it in a jar in the sun and it'll, or sorry, you leave it in the sun and then you put it in a cool place and it's preserved. Are there in Tanzania in the different communities were there not ways of preserving food in a historical
Yeah,
sense in a
we have those ways, but the challenge comes. All this problem we are facing, the main source of this problem is the increase of the population. Because in Tanzania or Africa at large, we have a problem. We believe having a very big number of family is a social gift from God. So this kind of challenge is something we need to address out the way we can overcome it. Because you find somebody is just producing for just subsistence economy to keep themselves. Let's assume I have 1 acre and I'm just doing this traditional farming, whereby the land is, I don't get enough manures or fertilizers, but they keep farming the same crop every season. You know, there's when you keep doing the same thing every season, even the way you're producing also do decrease. So the big challenge, Kakol, is that the number of population with this family level cannot match even what is being produced. But in the process, whatever they produce little, they used to sell out because they believe the next season will come, then we'll farm again. So all this challenge comes with the number of population because the rate of people, the rate of mortality is very high compared to what we had. You get my point? Because these people, a lot of people, they have lose hope. So the only thing they believe that if If I conceive like three children or 5 children or 10 children, every children will come with his or her lucky. That's the perception people still have on the ground. So this kind of perception is what make the life become very difficult.